Just kidding.
Happy
There you go. All right. Welcome, you guys. This is Blaze over here, Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast. I'm stoked to have Azul back. You are our second, I believe, recurrent guest, which is pretty cool to have somebody on for a second time. Pretty, high level company, we'll say, for coming back. We had a really awesome conversation the first time, and I feel remiss to not have you back on. Before we get into catching up with you, seeing how things have been, what you're up to, I want to shout out our partners, First Form, Sweet Perfections Protein Cookies, LogTen. All you guys know those guys are great. The Pilot Connections, the supplements and protein cookies. You guys can grab that stuff in the show notes, and I'm also going to leave all of Azul's stuff in there as well, so you guys can find her. Just don't be a weirdo, and just reach out if you need some help, because she does a great job with what she does. So cool, dude. Talk to me a little bit. I know we almost should have just clicked record when we got back in the episode, for the catching up a little bit. But tell the people who didn't catch the first episode a little bit about you, where you're from. You can go as far back as you want, origin story, and we'll let it rip.
Cool. Well, I won't do that because then it'll be the entire podcast again. But right. I'm Azul. I'm a health and self-development coach, and I primarily work with women and men who've just kind of been spending years fighting yo-yo dieting and working workout programs on and off, and I help them what I call heal their relationship with food, fitness, and their bodies. And that's through just working through how can I say, their fitness journey, but more through a mindset, self-compassion, self-love lens versus a pushing, pulling, trying to make it fit into their life, or making their lives fit into it versus making it fit into their lives. Clearly someone needs to work on their elevator pitch, but it's always changing, so I can't even keep up with myself at this point.
That's what life is.
Yeah. And that is life, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
But yeah, lots of conversations. I feel like last time we talked, it was a lot of nutrition and fitness. And I think a lot of my practices shift so much to just mindset and self-talk and more about what's going on in the mind, to then change again how we approach these modalities of what I call self-care, but are not always seen as self-care,
Yeah. No, it's super interesting. I think I've said it probably no less than 8,000 times. But the perfect training program, the perfect nutrition plan, whatever you insert whatever, is nothing if you don't have kind of the mindset and the behavior modification and the necessary level of belief that you can do the thing that you want to do. Because you can Google or Chat GPT or whatever AI engine you want nowadays is pretty phenomenal. I could be like, hey, I'm a 30-year-old male looking to build strength and play sports for the rest of my life, and this is what I want to do, and I want a program that's 3 days and a nutrition program. It'll do everything you ask.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that you're missing some piece of human connection, behavior modification. And I think the big piece that you are hitting on too is the mental component, which I want to get to. And I may have asked you this before, but what qualifies somebody to be able to do something like that? I'm dude, I feel like everybody's just in this in the trenches together, myself included. Sometimes I'm like, damn, dude, I have struggles with nutrition and training, and some days where I'm on and off, just like everybody else. And I think it's so human to make sure we acknowledge that. But what have you done to kind of help build that repertoire? I'll call toolkit of things that you can help plug people into. And your I don't want to say I guess your curriculum, but for lack of a better term, curriculum of how you kind of work people through some of those challenges.
Yeah. It's funny because on my website I have, and I totally stole this from someone so long ago, but on my website, like I have my curriculum, put like the certs and the courses and the schooling and all that stuff. And then
Yeah,
I,
nobody cares.
at the bottom, right, like at the bottom, I say like, yeah, these are all great things, but like truly what makes me a good coach really aren't those things. It's like what I've gone through and what I've done and like the people, the practice and the people that I've worked with. And just like you work with enough people, you hear enough things, a lot of the same, like we all, most of us struggle with the same exact stuff, just maybe like worded a little bit differently. And
Isn't that kind of like nice though? Like you're not that unique, you know? Like, oh yeah,
yeah,
like everybody thinks they're in it on on their own, but every
I literally, it's so mean, but sometimes I'll be like, "You're not special." Like, but like I say that with like clients that I have that kind of relationship with. But it's like kind of like when my sister's 10 years younger than me, and like she went through her first breakup, and she was like, "It's the love of my life." Although I was like, "He's not," And it's like that like idea when you're younger and you like something happens and you're like, no, but this is it, or like our love was different, or our blah blah, and you're like, you're not that special. It's not that deep. Like it's one of those like very the hard truth. Like that happened with me recently with something like business wise, and I think it's funny because I got really deep into learning about like self compassion and positive self talk like about 2 years ago. And one of the things it says is like, a component of self compassion is like not self isolating yourself, like just common humanity, like knowing that everyone kind of goes through the same thing. And because when you isolate yourself, then it becomes about you, and then you're a problem, or you're like, you start to go into those negative self talk patterns of like, there's something wrong with me, like I'm broken, I'm whatever. But like to your point, it's like you're kind of quote unquote not special like everyone else. Like we all struggle with these things. And that's, I mean, funny and also kind of like dang, but then I don't know, like you can choose. It's kind of like when they say like when you see someone that's doing what you're doing and you get like kind of jealous, right? And it's like you can either choose to see that as like, oh, they're taking away from me, or see that as, oh my god, they were able to do it, therefore I can too, you know?
yeah, like
So
motivating in that way.
yeah, exactly. And so god, where did that even start? What was your question initially? I like went off on a
Just like
tangent
how,
there.
yeah, like you're walking somebody through like this
Mm,
level of like
mm.
a
The courses
coaching
and
and
what
stuff.
makes me,
Yeah,
yeah.
like your ability to do that for me personally, like, we the way that we met, and we should have started with this, was we met when we were doing our Precision Nutrition L2 course, which they deemed the Master Nutrition course, right?
Master Health
It was
Coaching
like
course.
six. Yes, I'm sorry. I got to make sure I get the name right. Shout out
Yeah,
to PM, by
hello.
the way.
No kidding.
Dom had some good gems in there. I still use a couple of his gems. I'll hit on those in a second. Don't let me
Okay.
forget the Dom coaching gems. But
Okay.
um, we met in the course, and like we're in there, and every single coach who was like looking to improve their health and wellness and improve their nutrition coaching abilities and all those things also had the same struggles as everybody else. And the only thing that I feel like was kind of like validating is that you got in a small chat room that was probably awkward for like 4 minutes until everybody kind of like went around the room and introduced themselves. And then people started sharing the stuff that was like, hey, like I'm really struggling to do X, Y, or Z. When you got like this much vulnerable, or you like showed like this much level of shame, like what it did is I felt like it opened the door for other people to kind of walk in and then do the same thing. And it was pretty
Hmm.
profound. Like you end up, I want to say those breakout exercises may have been 30 minutes or 45 minutes, maybe an
Yeah.
hour max. But
Hmm.
by the end of that, you're like, oh, guys, we'll see you. Hope we get in the same chat room again. Like
Follow me
you
on Instagram.
totally, you almost feel like a pen pal because you just like talked, and you
Yeah.
weren't talking the whole time. Maybe you connected more or less with people, but at the end of the day, like you realize, like, hey, I'm a coach doing this thing. And I think when you can like call a duck and realize like you don't have, maybe you don't have all the answers, but you do have like a resource, other people, and then go through some of the same thing. It makes you like relatable. It shows like the broad like band of the fact that some days you're not on. I mean, it's a bell curve like anything else, right? Some days you're not on, some days you're really on, and some days are somewhere in the middle. And
Yeah.
you can kind of relate that, and that's what people want. They don't want you to show just the highlight reel, I feel like, and we get in this like weird space, and especially, I mean, most of your practice is online, from my understanding too, right?
All of it is.
Yeah, so like when you're doing the thing online and the space is online, like damn, like people will be up there posing at bodybuilding shows and like looking like their best and showing all this like thing, and it's like, man, that's great, but like when you're relating and connecting with people, not everybody is on stage every single day at a bodybuilding
Yeah.
show. Some days they're waking up at 4 a.m. to do cardio and they're hating it, which
Yeah. Yeah. I think like you hit a couple different things there, right? Like I think whenever I'm posting on Instagram, the things that are the most vulnerable and emotional tend to do the best. I don't think people want perfect anymore. Like and I think especially with like AI coming out and stuff like that and you like not knowing what's real, I think we're kind of leaning away from the perfect aesthetic, the perfect routine, like all these like people want real and want authentic and genuine, and I think you can kind of smell that from a mile away these days. And so I think my biggest thing has always been just like not even pretend that I'm perfect. And I think my clients also really appreciate that, because I think what that ends up doing, and something that, I think makes maybe me different, air quotes, is the fact that like it's just about empathy, right? I think sometimes what I see online, which like makes me so annoyed, is like when people people comment on people's posts and be like, you lack self-discipline or self-control, or do that, like there's just a lack of empathy, I think, overall for people. And I think when you are a 25-year-old single, like either in college or working a typical 9 to 5 when you clock out, and like you really like going to the gym and you're there for 2 hours, and you don't like, it's like when it's easy, right? Like I was just talking to two guys who just had kids recently, and they're fitness professionals, and I was like, how has this changed your approach to working with your clients who are parents? Because now you have a whole new, like, now you can be so much more empathetic to what those people are going through, whereas before maybe you didn't quite understand as much. Or
right.
like I think about it in the Ozempic space, or like the fat loss space, where it's like people are not so empathetic to people that maybe do have real things like food noise, where it's like, well, just like stop thinking about it, or stop eating it, or stop whatever, and you're like, you have no idea. Right? And I think as a coach, something that's nice is like you don't need to know all the answers as a coach. Like I don't actually think it's about having all the certs and all the courses and knowing everything about nutrition. I don't think that's what makes a good coach. And I think a lot of times when you think you know it all, like you lose that empathy, because you're like, okay, this is how behavior change works. You do this and then you do this. Like that's how I started my coaching career. Like I thought I had to know everything. And I was like, okay, fat and protein and and blah, and like this is the box. And then you're gonna do step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3. And then you start working with actual people and you're like, oh, gonna throw that out the door, because that's
Yeah.
actually not, it's not like step by step, and everyone kind of has their own different things. And I think the biggest thing about like I've met, like I used to work at Equinox, and it's like some of the most fit people, worst coaches, right? Like some of the most healthy people, worst coaches, right? Because there's not that like skill. This is like why I'm like worried about AI, but I'm also not worried about it, because at the end of the day, like AI doesn't have the capability to like hold space, empathize, connection, right? Like that's what I feel like most of my job as a coach is just to like sit there to to listen, to like work through things with people. And then I happen to have this like knowledge base that I can like tap into to help, right? But it's like you're sifting and sorting first before you like pull, like you go to that knowledge base to be like, oh yeah, this is why protein might be good for this, and this is how many grams and all this stuff. But most people, I don't know, most people, it's not the first, and I don't know. Like I think empathy and just knowing you're not perfect can also help people, I think, be less scared to talk to you, which is why
Yeah,
I'm
I think
also not scared to sometimes be like, I ate a whole pizza yesterday. Like, oops, like, and then my client's like, oh, I also did that on Tuesday. And I'm like, see, you're fine. Like,
yeah.
I don't want you to be scared to tell me things at the end of the day because you think I'm doing everything perfectly, you know?
Yeah, the you hit on like I'll say the tips that I think I wanted to get back to that Dom
Mhm.
told us when we were in that class. And there's like three coaching tips that I still struggle to do all the time. And I think will be a constant battle. And it was be lazy was the first one, i.e. like
Mhm.
you should like find the simplest which basically is like a keep it simple stupid style of
Mhm.
approach to coaching in general. And I think that's great. He said number two, he said to play dumb, which I can almost like relate that back to what you're saying was like be curious in a way, and also like
Yeah.
don't assume that people know things, because like I feel like that's part of the benefit of working with real people, is you're not working with somebody who claims to have all the answers, and you can like get a little bit of information from them. Like if somebody starts telling me about, we get on our call and they're like, oh, like I'm doing this, and I'm eating this many macros and this many calories. I'll just like start asking like why, like, okay, what does a calorie do? What does whatever do? And I'll just like let them go, and then be like, why does that matter? And I may or may not like be able to take and plug in some holes from that if I have the knowledge, or even go back and do some research if I need to. But the
Mhm.
nice thing is that you're getting a true understanding of what somebody's saying, and you're being curious about their situation, which I think is almost more important. Like, hey,
Yeah.
why why do you have food noise? Why do you have um the desire to go on like Ozempic? Like, what is the thing that's driving you to this decision?
Yeah.
And the answer is, oh, like my friend did it and it was helpful. And it's like, okay, well, maybe your situation and your friend's situation are different, or maybe keto
Mhm.
doesn't work for you and maybe works for them, or whatever. So I think be lazy, play dumb, and the last one is my hardest, most difficult one to do, and it's care less. I find that
No.
like
Yeah.
dude, it's so hard for me. Like
Mhm.
I have to like try and draw like a boundary that's like I cannot care more than you care. But
Yeah.
I do a really poor job, and I probably like try to care too much. And at the end of the day, like until people really take accountability for their own journey, you're never gonna really get them there. And I think the some of the stuff that you talk about is great. Like the fact that your mindset is important, your self talk is important, all those things, because that all leads to that behavior change at the end of the day. That's going to
Mhm.
get you to the spot that you want to
Mhm.
be. And if I'm the one who's like, oh, you got to make sure that it's like a teacher like telling you to do your homework versus you like being interested in a topic, and then you like
Yeah. Yeah.
on your own, and you research it on your own. Like who wants to go clean the dishes? But if you're like super interested in doing that, or like I mean, then you don't have to do it, and it becomes like part of it. And part of that's maybe motivation based or timing based on the point in somebody's life. But I feel like mastering that component is definitely something that I'll continue to to develop myself, to build a little bit of a boundary, because I tend to be like, oh, I'm helping. It makes me feel really good when somebody has success, and then if I'm doing the same thing and then somebody tends to like not do well because they're not checked in, or maybe they're not fully invested, I'm like, oh man, like I need to help get them there. And it's like, oh well, you're doing what you told them you would do and helping them as much as they allow you to. But at the end of the day, they've got to kind of grab the bull by the horns and let it ride.
Yeah. Yeah. The not caring is so hard. And I think it's twofold, right? Like part of it is you become a coach because you want to help people. Like literally for no, it's not like I became a
Right.
coach to make all the money in the world. I like I truly just did not want people to feel or go through what I did. And I saw so many people that were, and I was like, wait, I can help these people, right? And I think that's one part. And then I think the other part that you often have to kind of check yourself for, and this is like, even saying this out loud, I feel like is taboo, but like part of it's like ego based, right? You're like, well, they're a client of mine. And if they don't do well, it's my fault. I'm a bad
Totally.
coach. And you're like, it has nothing to do with me. Like it truly has nothing to do with like I can't make this about me because then one, I'm in it for the wrong reason. um, but two, that's a lot of pressure on them. And three, like to your point, I think people just need I think sometimes people will reach out for coaching when they're not actually ready to get coaching. Um, and I say that in sense like they're not quite ready to, it's like the whole ready, willing, able thing, right? Like it's the idea of like if I it's kind of like when you sign up for a course because like you're excited for the outcome, but you're not actually ready to do the work. And then you get in the course and you're like, I paid for this thing, and then you end up not finishing it or you don't do the work or whatever. But like you get excited by the shiny object and then you realize like the work you have to put into it and they're not actually quite ready for it. And I think that's an interesting space when you have a client that comes to you like that as a coach, because you almost have to recognize that and like recognize the stage of change they're in. And so sometimes it's just like a ton of, again, mindset work or like education up front. Because if you're the one like forcing someone to do something, it's not sustainable and they're not going to keep doing it, because at that point you're like a nanny holding their hands versus like actually coaching them how to in a way become their own coach in a
Yeah,
sense.
that's like the goal, which is like it's sad, but it's true. Like, how do you get somebody to be self-sufficient? And if
Mhm.
they should leave your program at some point and not need you, which is
Yeah.
like the greatest feeling. And also, it's like, yeah, you're basically like coaching yourself out of a job too, which is
Yeah.
like, you're like, oh my gosh, dude, like, what kind of business model are we running here? Like, what is happening? But yeah, that's like the goal. Like I mean, I just started working with a guy, a fellow pilot. I'm not going to shout him out. He may be upset at some point because he may listen, but he's like seeing some like incredible progress, and he's like telling me, he's like, "Oh, thanks, dude." And I'm doing a lot better recently of being like, "Hey, man, like I'm not responsible for any of your success, but I'm also
Mhm.
not responsible for any of your failures. Like I'm gonna
Mhm.
be like totally
Mm.
neutral and be like, dude, like this is all you. You're doing everything. We've just found a way to like brainstorm ways and that you're bought into, that you enjoy, that are sustainable for you to find some success."
Yeah.
And he's starting to get extra motivated. He's like, oh, other people are starting to notice, and all those other
Mhm.
things are starting to happen. And he's trying to thank me, and I'm just like, again, talking to the ego piece. It's like, hey, like it's not me, but I'm also not responsible for the flip flop. And I think when you talk about people who grew up in our generation of people, I think too, like the accolades have always been something that parents have pushed, like, oh, go to school, get your degree, check the box, do the thing. And I think like that just has you striving for the next, the finish line.
Yeah.
And this journey, as far as like health, coaching, and all these things, is all about the process. It's all process driven.
Oh yeah.
It's not, it's not final product driven. Like you don't get to like stop training or eating healthy. Like you
Yeah.
just have to until you die. Like
Yeah.
it's the worst, again, the worst business model ever. I have to sell you like working out until you're dead, and then like eating well until you're dead, or otherwise it like is not your thing. So
Yeah.
so funny. Like we get into this thing. It's like, how do you fall in love with the game? And I think I have a mentor of
Mhm.
mine who basically has said that like you don't have to necessarily like care about the end score. You have to fall in love with playing. And like if you
Yeah.
can figure out a way to fall in love with playing, and you don't necessarily care what quarter one, quarter two, three, and four, but you're just like loving the game, like you're probably onto the right thing. So leaning into stuff that you enjoy, and things that are sustainable, I think is just so key too.
Yeah. And I think that that's like a huge thing, like loving the journey, not just the destination, because the destination isn't really a destination to your point, right? Like you lose the 10 pounds, like you don't just all of a sudden get to go back to eating the way you did or stop working out, right? Just like anything in life, like you had the kid, you have to now take care of the kid for the rest of your life. Like you are now a parent, you know, like you don't just stop, or like you become the CEO or whatever position you want to be in. You don't get to just like all of a sudden stop being responsible or stop doing, like you actually have to, like, to maintain that, you have to do the new thing, right? Like you have to be a different person. You have a kid, you have to be a parent. You become a CEO, you have to do CEO things. Like you like lose a certain amount of weight, like you have to do, like you have to continue to do those behaviors.
Yeah, you have
And
to
I
keep
think,
doing what you did to get there, or possibly even more to stay there, right? Like
yeah,
that's like the reality is like how do you break that down, you know?
yeah. And I think, you know, like that's so, yeah, to your point, I think health, it is kind of a weird business model because, you know, everyone sells. And that's kind of the hardest. I feel like every year and a half, I have this like this moment where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, what, this industry sucks. Like, I get so mad because it's like 6 weeks this, 12 weeks that, like this fad diet, this quick fix or whatever. And you're like, no, like, that's not what, like, you can't, it isn't about just doing like 1 6 week like fitness program and then you have abs and then you're done, right? But that's, I think, the narrative that keeps getting told about this industry, and it's just like it's incredibly frustrating because you're like, no, like let's learn how to approach this differently and how to approach this with the mindset of like, this is something I'm doing for myself. And I think that's why one of the biggest things in my journey, and one of the things that changed the way because like I, you know, my backstory is like I basically, like I've always been in a thin body, like I've had quote unquote thin privilege in that way, right? And as a female, when you get older, hormones change and things are a little bit different, but like for the most part, I was always thin, and I always worked out like to be thinner. Like that was always like a fear that I was like gonna gain weight, and all, like that's how I entered the fitness industry, is like, okay, I'm gonna do this 2 hour workout and then I'm not gonna eat carbs and I'm gonna stop eating at 7 and I'm gonna, you know, do all the like I'm gonna not drink cold water because apparently that's bad for you. Like it's just, and I remember it just like always felt like a struggle. Like it was always like the workout I had to go do and it was grueling and I was tired, or like I couldn't eat the things that I want. I stopped going out to eat with friends, and I would like like I went to an Indian restaurant once and took my own food in a Tupperware. Like what? And all because like, you know, I had approached it in this lens of like either punishing myself for doing or not doing something, or like this fear of my body. And I think this is top of mind for me because I just am about to write a post about like how working out, I've noticed with a lot of clients, especially females who've never worked out before. I kind of had this like epiphany of like working out, if you've never worked out before, is like incredibly confronting. It's kind of like if you've never thought about the thoughts in your head and you go to therapy and now you're being forced to think about what goes on in your head. Like working out is like that, in the sense that like if you're someone who's always ignored your body because you like either didn't like it, you don't want to look at it in the mirror, so you're always wearing baggy clothes, or like every time you run you feel really slow, or you don't like your belly rolls, like working out forces you to like be in your body. Like you feel like, you will feel the sluggishness, you will feel the years of not working out, like you'll feel like you'll like, you know, go to pick something up and like see the cellulite on your, you know, like I was like leg pressing the other day, just staring at my legs, and like in a certain position I have cellulite, you know, and you're like, okay, that's interesting. So it can be really confronting. So like I'd have these clients where like we couldn't figure out the fitness piece until we kind of like, you know, we'd try all these different workouts, and it was like this is where I get into like, sometimes it's not about just like, you know, like do A and then B. It's like the mindset work behind like, okay, what, instead of giving you the perfect workout, like let me maybe ask you the question of like why you're not doing this to begin with. Like, and let's go a little deeper there, because yeah, for a lot of people it was like, I just like, I don't like, I don't like looking at myself. Like I don't like my body. And when I go to try running, I feel really freaking slow. Or like when I try and work out, like I feel weak. I feel the frustration of not having started 10 years ago. I see the cellulite, right? And
Or
in the post,
comparing or thinking other people are watching them in the space too.
100%.
Being
No
like,
one
what do
gives
all these
a shit.
people think of me?
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
One, no one
Again, you're not
cares.
that special, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You are not the main character in anyone's life.
Yep.
Sorry. Like, other than your own, right? Which is like, ouch, but also super empowering because then you're like, no one's going to remember. And guess what? If they do, it's because they're an asshole.
That's 100% true too. Right?
I
Like,
mean, like,
as somebody who's been to like numerous like group fitness events, like I could not tell you a single other person that was in there, or like I couldn't tell you how much weight they picked up, how they looked doing it. I could tell you none of that, none of those things, not a single thing.
exactly. Like, and again, like if they did, like, I often say, like, whenever, if you feel like people are judging you, and this might sound harsh, but it's like sometimes you want to kind of put a mirror to yourself and be like, if you think people are judging you, it's probably because you judge other people, right? Like
Yeah,
if you like, I felt that way with so like on social media, like I was just telling my partner, I was like, I just need to take more photos of myself. That's like the honest truth about social media, is that like you need to take photos of yourself, and I'm terrible at it. And I was like, but I get so awkward in public because like I don't want to have my phone out and like put the stand up and take photos of myself and like be that person. And I was like, I feel like people are judging me. And then I kind of had a moment where I was like, I only think that because I judge people that do that. And I have to like I have to like put the mirror to myself and be like, I'm being the asshole that judges other people for doing the thing. And therefore, I think they're like, you put your own voice and your own judgments and your own thoughts into other people's heads.
for
Right.
sure.
And so that was like a really like, well, we all kind of want to think that we're like perfect and nice and all these things, but sometimes we're not. But yeah, so the whole point of the post was that like I was like, instead of using it as your excuse, how can you use it as like your catalyst, right? So like if you feel weak, right? Like how can you use that as a catalyst because you want to feel stronger, right? Like if you feel slow, how can you use that as a catalyst to like you want to feel faster versus like not doing the thing because you're slow. You want to do the thing because you're slow because you want to be fast, right? And trying to like shift that. It's basically my coaching is just basically a bunch of reframes. We're like, how can we reframe everything to work
Which is
for us?
true though, right? Because like I've had the like super I feel like I'm very fortunate that I've gotten to work with a couple people. One guy who's like never spent any time in the gym. He was like training with me. We were doing some stuff in person when I was in California, and then he took like a hiatus when we moved. And he actually just reached out to me last week and was like, "Hey man, like man, I've like regressed. Like I feel like I need to get back into it. Like what can I start training with you back online, and you can write me a couple workouts a week and we can get back to
Nice.
it." But he like was one of those people that I think that his biggest barrier when he first started training was that he hadn't done it before and he was scared to go and do it in public. So like when
Mhm.
I was training him, I was just like, "Hey dude, just come to the house." And he felt like comfortable in that space to like learn. And honestly, the kid is probably the one of the best listeners of like coaching cues and understanding movement that I've probably ever had. Like he picks up on things like this. You have to explain it one time and he knows it. He like internalizes it. You can tell he's actually listening, which is great. And then like he now has a gym membership and is like going to go to a public space to then do workouts that are
Wow.
written. But like the fact we didn't get him from one space to the other by like me telling him, "Hey dude, you need to go and like train in a gym now." It's like,
Mhm.
no, come to the house. We'll make you comfortable. And then we can start to do these other things. And the whole goal at the end of the day with him was like, I wanted to work with him while I was there and then hopefully transition him to the online space when we
Mhm.
left. But he was like a little bit resistant when I left because he's like, oh man, I'm just gonna miss doing the things in person, blah blah blah. But I think that some people start to see like, hey, the reality is like you have built the tools now, like you have the foundation, and realistically, like he probably could just again go on Chat GPT and say, hey, write me a program that does this, this, and this. So he's
Mhm.
figured out like a style, a thing that was working for him. And the biggest thing that I think we haven't even really touched on today too is like having a community of other people around you,
Mhm.
is so key. Like, I'll tell you one thing for me, at least, and you may feel the same way. Coaching in the coaching space, I feel like in entrepreneurship, business ownership is incredibly isolating. Like,
Mhm.
there's a lot of people out there that work a 9 to 5 job and do not understand anything that you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
none of it. Like, I'll say, like, my family doesn't understand. That the only people that truly get it are like other coaches that are in the space, and they're like,
Mhm.
bro, like, I understand what you're doing. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
You're trying to be on the camera. You're not trying to do too much. You're showing people the journey. You're showcasing some wins. You're showing the vulnerability in the thing. You're trying to do all these things, and you're like, I'm like trying to also build, but also like set boundaries to not like do things too fast or the wrong way. So it's like there's
Yeah.
so many like pulls that I don't necessarily think like other people truly get. So like having a community of coaches even is like such a benefit of like having somebody
Mhm.
else to be like, hey dude, like, oh, I got this client that like won't like do the most basic thing to like walk, and then they'll just be like, bro, like they're not ready yet. Like that's just like, and you're like, you know what? You're right. They're not ready yet. And then like it just like removes all the pressure, right? It like takes all of it off, and you're like, you're not going through it alone as well, which is like the funniest part about going through that PN course was like it took all of the pressure off. And in
Yeah.
a community of people, when people are engaged and interacting with one another and showcasing the fact that it's not all sunshines and rainbows, like I think it does that same exact thing. So, it's not about the workouts. It's about like, hey, let's hop on a call and talk. Let's figure out a way that we can brainstorm these things. Let's talk about wins, losses, and success. Let's just share like, hey, I went travel. I moved this summer and it was a dumpster fire. Like, here's what it was about. And people come for the results, and they stay for the community, I feel like. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's like such a key thing that I feel like we miss, as coaches on a whole, of like just being like, hey, dude, like, you're going to like think I'm being woo woo and like kind of like sappy or like dumb or cliche, but like that is truly the case.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's most all of my coaching right now is one-on-one, and I think that's something I've been thinking about for a while in terms of incorporating some sort of group community component in there, because when I've hosted like 4-week workshops and things like that before, where there was a group and we would do, like 30 to 45 minutes of like group work or like Q&A. And that's always, by and large, like the biggest thing people always take away from it is like, wow, like it was so nice to be with other people that were also struggling in the same thing. And I thought I was alone. And like it was so nice hearing so and so's story because I related to it. And that's part of, so to your point, like I've been thinking about a group thing, some group component like that for a while. And I think that's kind of also why, like, my Instagram a lot of the times is me kind of reiterating certain things that were said in sessions or things like that with clients. Because I think also when you work with people one-on-one, I think people just in general don't really love being told what to do, or like, you don't, sometimes if you feel
You
like
know,
you're,
people don't like being told what to do. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, who's that? That's not me. But like sometimes it's easier when things aren't being told like to you, but like you're hearing them. And what I mean by that is like sometimes I'll say things on Instagram knowing that it's like registering with the clients that I want to like hear it, but it's registering because they're hearing it not as like being told to them, but being told to like a broader audience. And so that's kind of what I like about group work or community as well, is like you can say something and then someone can decide how they want to interpret it, or like the pressure is off to like, I don't know, say something in return or something like that. But I think that's really cool tangent on the fact that you were saying your client moved from working out from home into a gym. And that's that's like what ends up happening with a lot of my clients too, is like in the online space, like because I do virtual Zoom workouts with people. And a lot of the time, and that started from COVID because I worked at a gym beforehand and then I went online because of COVID and was doing virtual one-on-one sessions, and then people would build out the home gyms and it was fine. So a lot of people now, it's either I work with people that have kind of built out their home gyms and they just have no interest going back to a gym. They're like, I just like being able to walk a minute to my home gym, do the workout. And then I also have this whole group of people that like are intimidated by the gym and they've never been and they've never worked out and they don't know what to do and it's scary and whatever. And it's like, let's start at home, learn the basics, get you feeling confident and strong. And I have a client who's a nomad. And so she trains in like different gyms all over the world now. And I remember one of our first sessions, she was really intimidated to do the like a barbell squat. She like was intimidated to take it apart to like lower the supports, you know? And she was like, I don't know, like blah, blah. And I was like, you've got this. Like, I'm here. No one's looking at you. I like basically just coached her for 5 minutes on like how to redo that. And just yet, like a week ago, she sent me a little video that she made on CapCut or whatever. And she just like had gone and done a workout by herself. And it was like barbell back squats and this and whatever. And she's like, I did it on my own and everything. And I was like, I could cry. I'm so proud of you. Like, that is so awesome. Never worked out a day in her life. And now like we'll go to the gym and just do a whole workout by herself. Like incredible. But yeah, I think, I don't know. It just, exercise is so interesting because I think, we're kind of told like there's a perfect way to do, even as a coach, like I'll learn a new modality, like tempo or this or whatever. And I'm like, this is the new perfect. And I'm like, no, it's just doing, as long as you're doing something consistently and you're pushing yourself enough to feel challenged, really, that's great.
That's it. Yeah. The magic pill is that. The magic pill is showing up. And like, it's so funny. Like I did a side note tangent. So we have I'll call like very fitness conscious community of Coast Guard rescue swimmers, which I don't know if you've seen the movie The Guardian with Ashton Kutcher. If you haven't seen it, you should probably go watch it because it's pretty good.
The Guardian
The Guardian, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Take some notes there. That's a good one for you. And basically, they talk through like the Coast Guard rescue swimmer training program, which is like very physically demanding. These guys drop into Alaska waters and are doing like rescues in the ocean, grabbing people that are on sinking ships. They're doing first aid in helicopters when so and so is like hypothermic, like whatever. Those are like I'll call like poster children people, and there's not that many of them. Like I believe the number, and don't quote me on the number now, as of the year 2025 is around like 1,200 that have ever existed. So the number is
my god, ever existed. Okay.
Yeah. Community is very small. Numbers are very small. There's not been a lot of these guys. So on the order of like low thousands essentially is where we're at. So because of that, it's a very challenging program. They say like one of the most difficult, I'll call like it's up there, not necessarily the same type of thing, but it's like adjacent to like a SEAL trainer or people going to do like Green Berets or whatever the like high level like military tactics training. Except it's all based on like search and rescue primarily. So these guys end up like going to do this thing. And they've got a dude that's been doing the job for a long time who went and got trained by Exos. And Exos, I'm not sure if you've heard of those guys, but they do a bunch of like Olympic and like NFL athletes like prior to the combine. And they've created this like, I'll call like skeleton like training thing where they basically have like utilize key terms to define these things. But it's all like exactly the same as like a normal training like cycle would be. So they just name like, they're like, oh, it's like pillar prep, which is basically just like some like core stability and mobility stuff before you train. And then you're like doing some like dynamic movement, and then you're into like your power block, and then you're into like your compound strength, and then you're into your accessory work and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But really, it's like it's all the same. And
Like,
those
there's a
guys
squat
are
in
the
there,
best.
lunge, an overhead press.
I'm
Like,
telling you, it's the same thing. It's they're warming their body up in some way.
mhm,
They're doing some amount of like, I'll call it power work. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I learned is like, hey, doing your big like explosive movement patterns like right away, but like you have the most amount of energy. Your
mhm,
acuity is probably the best, like all those things. So like if you're gonna do like hang cleans or you're gonna do like sprint work, you should probably do that at the beginning of your training session versus
mhm.
the end. And
Yeah.
then you're like into your strength building and then accessory work. But really, it's just the same as it's always been, and they just defined it this specific way,
Yeah.
and broke it down. And it's just so interesting that everybody's trying to like always like reinvent the wheel, try and figure out a way. But like we also have this recipe for success that's worked for thousands and thousands of years of like this is how people are able to move and
Mhm.
be pain free. And you can look at the people that are my I love using the example, but my grandfather's 84 and he plays basketball with 20-year-olds, and
Oh,
like
that.
he's always, I'm telling you, it's unreal. He's the first person up the court on a breakout every single time. He's fast. He can move. He can shoot. He can do all those things. He re-roofed his house in Northern California like 3 years ago on his own as like an 80-year-old man, and he's like pulling shingles up. Like it's unreal. And the reason that he can do all of those things is he's always been like a tinkerer and moving around and been playing. Like he's
Yeah.
never stopped, and he's
Yeah.
found things that he enjoys doing. And he's leaned into those things. So like, let's say for example, you're somebody who's like not into the gym. Maybe that's something you can develop. Maybe it's not. But if you're super into like mountain biking or you're super into like hiking or something like that, why would you say like, oh, I need to go to the gym instead of doing these things that I like and enjoy? Like I think there's amount
Mhm.
of power in leaning into discomfort and like finding that you can do hard things. Like that's great, but like don't shut out this part of your life that's like helps you be successful and something that you love at the same
Yeah.
time. I think like we get wrapped around like, you know, people posing on Instagram showing their muscles and saying like, "Oh, I did this by doing this my 3 minute ab routine every day,"
Yeah.
and then everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, like I need to go to the gym now and do this 3 minute ab
Yeah.
routine so that I
Yeah.
can look like this guy." It's like, no, like you don't need to do that, and also like not
That's
everybody. I mean,
not what he did to get those abs.
yeah, dude, exactly, exactly, exactly. Probably some amount of performance
Hate to be a
enhancing.
buzzkill, but
Yeah, yeah. There's a shot going in his ass for most of the time instead.
yeah, yeah, and also like what he's eating and the what his workouts look like and all this stuff, right? I think I love that quote that's like we're minoring in the majors versus like majoring in the minors or something like that. Like, or actually, I think it's the reverse, where it's like we're paying attention to like the little small things versus like when a client comes to me and they're like, "Should I try chlorophyll?" And I'm like, how many servings of veggies did you have yesterday? Like, I'm like, yeah, you don't need chlorophyll. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's not concern
And dude,
ourselves with
this is
that,
funny
right?
for me too. I like cold plunging, like because it's like a mental battle. But like if I'm so worried about cold plunging that I'm not getting like 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, like my priorities are probably wrong. Like I
Exactly.
like, and it's like where we're looking for the 1 or 2% and we're missing the 90.
Yeah,
And
because it's
it's
not
so hard.
sexy. And this is
Totally.
the problem is that the basics aren't sexy. They're not. Like to your point, like the basic workout that you should be doing 4 or 5 times a week is not, I mean, it's a squat, it's a lunge, it's a press, it's a row, it's a push. Like they're not these like sexy things, right? And so people get bored. And I think this goes back to like I mean, everything you talked about when you like you were talking about like the training for the military and the Navy and like all these really, yeah, they're tough physically. The hardest parts about those trainings is the mental part. It's the
Oh, is
mental
it?
fuckery. Like,
Man.
and it has to be because like to do the things that they're going to go off to do, like it's mental, right? Like for most athletes, the hardest part is the mental part the game, of not giving up, of not getting ahead of yourself, or not, right? Like,
Yeah,
and I
dude.
think
Think
that's
about
the
like
hard
sports
part for most people.
psychology, like the
Mhm.
sports psychology world of like somebody like a baseball player is the best example, I feel like a hitting slump or like a pitcher
Yeah.
who like starts to like get out of their funk and they're just like so in their head. But like, bro, you are a professional athlete. You have proven that you can do this. You have,
Yeah.
however many games where you were successful or years where you batted super well. And it's like, and now we're in this slump and now you're like, what's the quote? It's like, there's like two wolves in battling at a constant battle in your brain. It's like one good and one bad, and who wins? It's like it's the one that you feed.
Oh, the one that you
Like,
feed. Yeah.
yeah, it's like what if you're feeding into the negativity or the whatever, like that's what's gonna rule out. Like if you're gonna be the victim, you're gonna feed into that or whatever the thing is. Like that's
Yeah.
what's gonna take over. And if you need to you need to reframe that, and you need to get into like a mindset coach or get into a sports psychology person or
Mhm.
get into something else that's going to pull you out of that or give you the tools to be aware of it. Probably being aware of it at first is more important. And
Yeah.
then being like, oh man, like it doesn't have to be this way. Like I don't have to treat myself like this. And the ironic part is like people treat themselves, me included for sure, like way worse than you would ever treat anybody that you like love and
Yeah.
care about. Right, dude?
100%.
Like how wild is that? How wild is it that you like I'll call it like the voice in your head is sitting there like
Mhm.
belittling yourself and you're just like I've like taken a second like actively and been like, man, like would I say that to like my partner? Would I say that to like my mom? Would I say
Yeah.
that to like my friend? Would I say that to somebody I don't even like?
Yeah.
And that's the craziest thing. Is like I wouldn't even say that to somebody like I don't like, which is
Yep.
absurd,
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. And a lot of people, but the problem is like, we're so conditioned, like, we've had that voice in our heads for so long that you don't even realize you're doing it a lot of the time. Like, I I don't even realize that's a thing until like maybe I say it out loud and my partner's like, "What did you say?" And I'm like, "Oh God, what?" And then they're like, "We have to have a sit down talk about this." I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it." And it's just like because I don't realize I'm doing it, right? And I think with clients, that's kind of almost a night. I would say like that's a one of the biggest takeaways. Like whenever I get like a follow up email or a follow up text after a session, it's often like, "Hey, thanks for helping me." Like helping pull me out of X or helping me reframe Y or helping me whatever, because they come into session and they just start complaining or criticizing or whatever. And like I said, like 98% of my practice is reframing, right? And so it's like, hey, notice what you're saying, right? And then like start to actually think it like whether or not it's true, right? I did a post for PN, I don't think it's posted yet, but talking about discipline, right? And how a lot of times we'll use the like, oh, I'm lazy, I'm undisciplined, I have no self-control, I have, whatever. And like in front of like the person in front of me that's saying this is like chief executive officer for like a big company, or like has is a single mom with 3 kids or whatever. I'm like, did you just fucking say you're lazy? Or like, did you just say you're undisciplined, but you run your own like successful business? Like, do you even hear what you're saying? But it's like not until it's reflected back to you that you actually realize what you're doing. And so a lot of the time, and so this is when we're talking about like maybe tangible tips here. It's like this is when journaling is like a great practice, because like you really don't, to your point, you would never say this to someone you hate, you never say this to someone you love, you might not even say it to yourself if you were actually saying it out loud, or if you were forced to like, hey, whenever you have those thoughts, what if you just like voice recorded it and then like played it back to yourself, like, ouch, right? Or like if you journaled it. I did a talk at a high school like 4 years ago now, on positive self-talk and body image and stuff. And one of the things I had them do is write down like all the thoughts that they had in their head about like their bodies, right? And so I had them write it down, and I was like, okay, great. And then I chose a couple people like in the group I had them raise their hand to say it out loud. And they're like, okay. And then I was like, okay, now person to your left, get up. I want you to turn and I want you to read it like as if you're saying it to that person. And like all of a sudden they like none of them wanted to say it. because like, yeah, looking at that person and being like, you're ugly, you have no blah blah, no one likes you, but you would never. But because like it's just internalized and you don't actually realize what you're doing sometimes, like it's easier, right? And then that you have the whole like people that actually believe it. And that's like a whole nother thing you kind of have to, that's like deeper work. But I think for a lot of people, just like writing it down or forcing yourself to say it out loud sometimes can maybe make you take a step back and be like, whoa. But then there's like the group of people that, or the group of people, the majority of people that believe that that's how you change. Like, they're like, okay, well, if I'm not happy with where I am at now, or if I don't like myself now, then that'll push me to change, right? Or if I eat the cookie and I just talk about how like stupid I am for doing it, or like how embarrassed and how frustrated, then like I'll be forced to change, you know? And I'm like, my question to that is always like, so how's that been working for you so far? Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
guess not well.
I cannot. I heard. I was talking to another coach a number of months ago, and she was saying that she had a client in a similar situation where she was like, "I have this goal weight. I want to be 120 pounds, let's say," and
Mhm.
she's like, "Why do you want to be?" Starts going down, digging. Why do you want to do this? Why do you
The
want to do
five
this? And
whys.
she's very emotionally intelligent, so she's able to
Mhm.
kind of like get this out of this client. And they get to the point where she's like, well, I was in high school, and that's like I look back at photos of me in high school, and that's what the number said, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I miss being like that skinny or whatever. And then she asked like the like mic drop question of like, were you happy then? Like,
Mhm.
what did you think about your body then? Like, did you think that you were skinny enough at that point? Did you think that you had the body that you wanted then? Like, so what she was able to do is she's able to peel back the layers of like, what does the 120-pound weight truly mean to you? Like,
Mhm.
is it about the confidence? Is it about the you feeling like X, Y, or Z? Like, where does that come from? And unless you're able to kind of like peel back those layers, it just seemed like it's this intangible goal, because then you're gonna get to, let's say like you follow your program to the T, you get to 120 pounds, then what? Like,
You're like, no, they're five.
yeah, dude. And
Yeah,
then
good. Yeah.
yeah, and
Biceps
then
could
and
be a
then
little bigger.
what happens, right? And then you're just in a position where you're just going through life and never satisfied. And that's something that I feel like as high achieving people, which a lot of the people I'm sure that you're coaching are like, and that we coach are as well, like that you can't like live that way, because you're just going
Yeah.
to be in this perpetual state of misery because you don't feel like you're doing enough, which is just so
Yeah.
frustrating. So I want to make sure I ask you, I feel like you led into it really well. I just went off on a bad tangent, but
That was a
um,
great tangent. I
tell
actually had
me,
something to
yeah,
say to that, but we'll go back.
tell me, let's say I'm listening to this and I'm somebody, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want that tangible tip about like recording myself saying these things, or journaling. Like, these are like great things. Like, give me some more
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm interested in being better with my mindset, with my X, Y, or Z. Like, give me some like, hey, this is something that you could try at home, that would be beneficial for you, that could end up like helping set you in the right direction.
Yeah. I feel like people are gonna hate these because they're so kind of like you had mentioned before. You're like, it's cheesy and it's eye rolling and it's whatever, but they're the basics and they work. So, like at the end of the day, I don't have like a sprinkle solution for everything. It's like these things take practice. But I do have tips. So for negative self-talk, like specifically, you have what we call like the three C's. So like comparing, criticizing, and complaining, right? Like when people use practice negative self-talk, it's generally in those three categories. And so first and foremost, it's like always awareness. A lot of people don't even know that they're doing this, right? And so some forms of awareness, like ways to become aware of it, is journaling, for example, right? Like if you wake up with anxious thoughts and negative self-talk, like journaling first thing in the morning. If you do it after a workout or before a workout, right? Like you kind of want your journaling practice to be around those moments, kind of like that habit stacking portion, or else you'll just never remember to journal. You can also have a notes app on your phone, but there's something about actually like pen to paper writing it out. It's more of a mind muscle connection. Like you can't think as fast as you write. So it just forces you to slow down and actually like look at what you're saying and what you're doing and be in the same headspace. So journaling coupled with gratitude practice, because you can't often think about two things at once. So like if you're pushing like things that you're grateful for, often it'll push out like negative thoughts in that moment. What I like about gratitude practice is more like long-term effects, is that like when you get into the habit let's say every night of writing 5 things down that you're grateful for, what it does is it starts to shift the focus during the day to remembering the things that went well versus what we can be really good at, which is remembering the one thing that went wrong. Like you could have a
Yeah,
great
dude,
day,
it's why the
100
news is so
people give you a
successful.
compliment. Yeah, like 100 people can give you a like compliment, and then like one person in there, like the 100th one person said your shoes were ugly, and all of a sudden that's like all you focus on, right? And so gratitude practice over time kind of helps you just reshift that focus, because unfortunately we do have a negativity bias, like just like as humans, like for survival we kind of have to, but not for everything, right? And so I think a gratitude practice of some sort, and if you're not a journaler, what I also have known people to do is to voice note when they're saying like negative things, but like one, it forces you to say it out loud, and then if you press play and you say it back to you, it could be really jarring, and then you like go through the like, you know, the questions of like, is it like, is this true? Where did this come from? Right? Like, is this even like my story? Because oftentimes it's not. It's like a teacher said something fucked up to you, or a parent, or like whatever, and you just took it on, you know? Another one that is annoying but effective is mindfulness and meditation. So again, mindfulness just kind of being the awareness of like, it's teaching you to take a step back and actually recognize what's happening in your head. And then meditation being quite literally like working out for your brain. Just like you go to the gym to work out, like meditating is like flexing your brain muscle. It's one of the only ways that you can learn how to gain control over your thoughts, right? So like we're not able to control whatever thought pops into our head, but we are able to control what we think about that thought afterwards, right? So like you might not be able to control the initial thought of I'm lazy, but you get to then control whether you think it's true based on the story you tell yourself of it being true or not, right? Or like what facts you're looking for, what, you know, what old stories you're allowing to like still be true, right? Like I say all the time, like, yeah, okay, maybe you were lazy last week. Fine, whatever. If that's what you want to tell yourself, that's what you want to tell yourself. That doesn't mean you need to be today, right? Like your past doesn't necessarily predict your future. Like you're able to change that whenever you want. But you have to be aware of the stories you're telling yourself and then decide to rewrite it, right? Like, what movie have you ever watched where the character was the same in the beginning than in the end? Like, none of them. Maybe a really bad one where character development isn't great, but not often the case, right? People change all the time. Another one is practicing self-compassion, which is kind of, you kind of nailed it, where it's like, it's basically asking yourself if you would treat anybody else this way, right? Like if like I have a client who's a teacher, for example, and we were talking through something and I was like, let me ask you something. If a kid were to come to you crying, right? For her it was more like she's having a hard time, like she's having a hard time listening to like emotions, and we're kind of doing some deep work right now, and she's like not really wanting any part of it. I was like, let me ask you, if a kid came to you crying, is it your job to like wipe it away and be like, it's fine, go away? No, right? Like that's, you would never do that to a child, right? You'd be like, oh my god, are you okay? What happened? What, you're trying to understand the situation, you're trying to like validate their feelings, that way you can move forward, right? Like that's the way you would approach it with a child. Why aren't you doing the same for yourself, right? And again, I think it goes back to like, okay, well, if I like myself for who I am now, or if I'm nice to myself, I'll never change, but if I'm mean, then I will change. To which I would go back and be like, how has that worked for you so far? I'm going to guess it hasn't, if you're still in the same position, right? And again, if a friend were to come to you and be like, hey, I, God, I don't know, am getting back with my toxic boyfriend. I don't know. I can't think of anything else. Like you wouldn't be like, oh my God, you're such an idiot. What the fuck are you doing? Blah, blah. That's not going to work because it's going to create resistance. They're probably going to end up defending their relationship, right? Versus if you're just like compassionate and understanding and just being like, okay, like curious, like what's going on? What got you to reach that solution? Hey, I'm here for you no matter what. I just want to let you know that, like, remember when you said X, Y, and Z, and right? Like it's a different approach that probably gets you more results. And a big thing, I started learning a lot about I'm sure like Brene Brown. She was talking about
Actually, yeah.
yeah, amazing. And something that was really stuck with me was like her talk about guilt and shame, and couple that with what I know about self-compassion. And it's, the mindset of like, okay, well, if we're mean to ourselves, that'll get us further, when really research shows that it doesn't. Like when you guilt and when you shame, it actually puts you towards tendencies of all or nothing mentality, right? Or like you end up quitting faster because now you're not practicing curiosity, you're not practicing like understanding, you're isolating yourself, right? That's like a big predictor of shame and guilt, is like self-isolation. As opposed to when you practice self-compassion, like you're way more likely, it's not like self-compassion isn't like, hey, love yourself for who you are now and like don't worry about growth, or like don't worry about being healthier, don't worry about like wanting to be better. It's actually like, hey, like you can like who you are right now and then want better for yourself, and like holding
You're
space for
not like checking out. You're just
checking
acknowledging.
out.
Yeah.
If anything, you're just changing, again, going back to like you're changing your approach to said thing, right? Now we're doing it because we care. Now we're doing it because, X, Y, and Z. And so yeah, self-compassion is a really big one that I got into. Those are probably like the biggest, because then you get into like, I'm not very familiar with like somatic work. I think the space is really interesting, but I'm not a somatic therapist. But that would probably be another thing that someone could look into if they like really wanted to, which is like, tapping or stuff like that.
I heard this really like interesting take, and maybe it's something that you could take back to somebody too. And I've used it a handful of times, and it's like the uh the thing about meditation that you kind of mentioned is where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, you cannot necessarily control the things that pop into your brain, but
Mhm.
you can control like what you do with that. And it
Mhm.
was a really interesting analogy where like imagine like you're walking down like a road, and like a little kid comes over to you and starts like pulling on your like pants. And like
Okay.
that's like a thought, right? And the
Yeah.
kid's like they're just like pulling on your pants, like trying to get your attention. And like that's the thought that's there, like just
Mhm.
going down, and like you're gonna give the kid maybe like a couple seconds of your attention. Like
Mhm.
maybe you don't know them, they're like, oh, like, hey, your parents are probably like over there or whatever.
Mhm.
But like after that, you're probably just gonna continue on your walk,
Yeah.
like, and it's like if you're giving the negative thoughts way more attention and you're following the kid over there to the dungeon or whatever the hell
Yeah.
like the going to, like you're going to feed that wolf,
Yep.
that thing. But if you're able to kind of take that thought and be like, like, all right, kid, like, see ya, I'm gonna
Yeah.
gonna keep walking through or go to my flight in the airport or whatever the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
You can kind of find a little bit more. So I've always thought like, hey, that's interesting, like thinking about it like almost like personifying the thing that's occurring and then looking at it objectively and just saying like, hey, like I don't need to lean into X, Y, or Z thing to be able to make a you know progress in my meditation practice or whatever too. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is all like, right, like meditation is, you're not just meditating to meditate. Like, I mean, you could be, but like, stress and anxiety and stuff like that. But like, whenever I have clients that like come to me with like emotional eating, right? For example, it's like meditation is usually something I ask them to do, because again, it's like you're flexing that muscle, your brain, right? Just like you would flex your bicep, right? Like you're flexing that muscle to get better at catching things, right? So whereas like how many of us have like been in the kitchen before and been like, what am I doing here? Like, how am I like knee deep in my pantry? Like, how did I get here? Right? Like that, like automatic, like not being able to like notice when you're triggered, the thought that comes after your trigger, the physical, like getting up from your desk to go, like it's just autopilot. And meditation and mindfulness are basically just meant to help you like understand each step, like, hey, when the thought comes, hey, when we start to think about things, hey, blah blah, which is like all kind of emotional eating is. It's a coping mechanism, right? So it's like recognizing when you're bored, when you're triggered, when you're trying to procrastinate, when you're whatever, like, and being able to stop it, or like at least get to this point where you're like, oh, pause, what is happening here, right? And then that's a whole nother set of skills, but like that first one, catching it, is so important, especially like also like if you just eat that cookie and then you catch that thought of shit, I ate the cookie I said I didn't want to have, right? If you can pause and be like, hey, okay, that's a thought. I'm eating the cookie. This is interesting. What got me here? Why do I want this? Why do I whatever? And then being able to like be like, hey, I actually don't want another cookie. Like I'm actually trying to X, Y, and Z. Versus like if you're not good at catching your thoughts, you go, shit, I had the cookie I didn't want. Oh my God, I'm so late. I guess I might as well just eat them all because I'm like blah, 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 and whatever. And now you've eaten the whole box of cookies.
Dude, yeah, it's so funny. I think the analogy that I have heard again from one of my business coaches, he's like, imagine you're on a road trip and you get a flat tire. Like, do you slash the other 3 tires, or do you like fix the tire and like move on? And then like you're basically just trying to find the link in the chain that somewhere along the way to break the cycle. And I'll give a quick story. Like for myself, I did 75 hard, like the challenge that
I saw your email.
Dude, it was very interesting. But I wanted to do it, and I also wanted to do 75 days off of social media, which I thought was like very interesting. I like, relationships with it. I'm like, hey, I just moved. I was like, I kind of feel like I could take some time away from my time on it. Really invest in like, one, the community of people that we have that are trained with us and work with us. 2, like my family, my like new home, all these other things. And 3, like my new job, and like kind of getting really focused and really finding like my own voice again. I feel like sometimes if I like am on it too much, I almost get like drowned out with what everybody else is saying, and it kind of clutters my message.
You start sounding different and you're like, wait.
Dude, for real. Yeah. So I did 75 days away from it, but the moral of the story is like, because on your phone, your like apps are placed in like a specific place. So if you like open it up and you like swipe over to whatever, you know where to go for like the messages block or the Instagram app or whatever. What I did on the first day is I literally took all of my social media things and I moved them 3 pages over, like to where like I didn't like go to. And ironically enough, like I would find myself like open the phone up and almost like click where they used to be, and like, oh, weird. Like now I'm seeing like my trigger of that thing. And like, when did I do that? Oh, I did that when I was bored, or I did it when it was whatever. And it became like, I got way more awareness because I was able to break the chain by doing something so small. And you could do that with, moving food from eye level in the pantry to floor level, like simple things like that I think can be really helpful.
And that's kind of like meditation, because what you're doing is you're introducing the pause, right? Like between what's that famous quote of like, between stimulus and response is like a pause or something like that. Viktor Frankl, I think, where it's like, what you just did was you found a way environmentally to introduce a moment of, oh, it's not where I thought, what happened? Where is it? Right. And it's long enough for you to then be like, wait, why was I here? What was I doing? Why did I go to the app? Right. Like you like introduced that pause that gave you a moment to like basically take a step back and be like, do I even want to be on Instagram right now? Like, this is so weird.
Totally. Which, I almost find that I never do now, but yeah.
I know. So I downloaded an app. So the way I did that, because I have to be on it for PN and for my own stuff, And so I can't delete it, unfortunately. And so I downloaded the only app that's ever worked for me, and it's called ClearSpace. And so basically you can set it to like different timers and all this kind of stuff. But basically whenever I want to do, I click it and it makes you breathe for 15 to 30 seconds. And even if I'm not doing the breath work, I still have to sit there for 15 to 30 seconds staring at it like, okay, let's go. But sometimes, like, even seeing that pop up, I'll be like, oh, I don't want to fucking deal with this. And then, like, I'll close it, right? Or I'll be like, I actually really don't want to go on. Like, no. Or like I have to, and then I'll go. And then what's nice.
It's all good.
Perfect. I forgot what we left off on, but.
No, it's all good. No, for real. Our meditation, creating pauses, all those things. And thank you again too for the tips. I feel like those are super helpful for people to just kind of take a step back and be like, hey, these are the things that I'm looking to kind of do and shift or change.
Yeah.
It's helpful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And interrupting the automatic like path, right? Like you said, through an app or through like moving it, right? I had a client once who like was always like, I can never get to the gym after I get home because I get so tired or whatever. And so I had her take me through exactly what like she does when she gets home. And she's like, yeah, I get home and then I change and then I sit on the couch. And I was like, there it is. She's like, what? I was like, don't sit on the couch. You are not allowed to sit on that couch when you get home. And ever since then, it was totally fine. But it was like, one, a couch is just like a second bed, let's be honest. So like the minute you sit on the couch, you're done. You're out. Like, but like we kind of had to walk through like her like journey of, like all these things to like see what the obstacles are. So like to your point, for someone, it might just be like, hey, instead of having the cookies on the pantry where you can see them all the time, what if you put them down and underneath, right? Like just interrupting that pattern for long enough for you to like kind of recognize what you're doing. So, yeah. Yeah, we talked about community in the beginning and how like you like to talk to other. I was like, this is why I like doing podcasts because I'm just like I'm home and I never talk to anyone. And when I do a podcast, I actually get to talk to other coaches and stuff like that. And so I really enjoy doing it. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you could come. Let me know what, if anything, I can ever do for you too. I know you came on here and helped a ton. I probably am actually going to send this episode to our community of people and be like, hey, come listen to somebody who's much smarter than me talk about some stuff to help us make sure that we're making sustainable progress and really just being better voices to ourselves. I think it's just so important. So thanks again.
Yeah. Well, we could run a workshop one day. I will at some point restart my podcast. And when that happens, I'll have you on.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
I've been itching to do it. It's just one of those things where it's like, I just have to do it. Like I'm just in my head about it. So you'll have to be on.
Well, I'll earmark me on. I'll be on. I'll make the time for sure. Anytime.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, have so much fun in Florida. Congrats again on the move. And we'll have to
appreciate it. Soon. For sure. And for anybody else who made it this far, thank you guys for listening. And then we'll again leave her stuff in the show notes. And then remember, you don't get old because you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. And we'll see you guys next time.
Love that.
I love it.
What a good ending quote.